And we are back 3 or 4 weeks later since our last podcast. For that, I do apologize. Hope you guys are having a great hunting season so far. But today we have Phil Kahnke back on the podcast. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a badass duck hunter. But what he's really known for in the industry is his waterfowl photography. So give him a follow on Instagram at Phil Kahnke. Check it out. It's going to just get you all sorts of pumped up on duck hunting. And then, so what we do is we just kind of hang out. We discuss the beginning part of his season compared to like the second half of the season, what his experiences were like there. We discuss his new boat, how that's performing. We talk about his elk hunt earlier in the year. We go on some rants about what drives us nuts in the industry and just generally just kind of hang out, have a great time. Typical of the Average Waterfowlers podcast. Hope you guys enjoy it. It's a little long, 2 hours, but if you're in the truck driving to your duck hole, should keep you pretty entertained. You can find it on iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher right now. I'm going to work on getting it on some other sources for other folks out there. Let us know what you think. Hope you guys enjoy it. Look forward to hearing from you guys soon.
Building a hitch for my fish house.
Oh, yeah? You're always working on some damn thing whenever I give you a call.
I got something going on, it seems like.
Yeah.
I can never just chill out.
Yeah.
So.
I'm the same way. I've got like 30 freaking hobbies, man. Whether it's like slinging arrows, photography, the gym.
Duck hunting,
fishing, bear hunting, elk hunting, deer hunting.
There's always something.
Wow.
Like at that and music and I try to read and I don't ever even read anymore because I got a billion other things going.
Yeah.
Daydreaming about duck boats and ducks and
yeah, daydreaming about ducks is about all I'm doing, man. It's been a rough season for us. A real rough season. I've killed 3 birds this year.
You guys are what, like a month into the season?
Yeah, man.
Well, you were doing, but I'm literally 5 weeks in the season, 4 weeks in the season before I killed a bird.
Really?
Just horrendous. God. I was driving like 50, 60, 70 miles scouting the first month, like all of October. Mm-hmm. And I went to see a duck. That's in South Dakota. Everybody thinks South Dakota is like this mecca.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Now we don't have water and it's 75 degrees. It was bad. And I wasn't going quite up north like where people typically go if they come here. Mm-hmm. But it was brutal.
We haven't had water, and it's been warm. And then when we did get water, that big ass cold front came through and just froze everything up. And so,
yeah, he got the worst of everything,
dude. And that bird just skipped over like Venice, Louisiana, South Texas, that whole coastal range right there with marsh.
Yep.
Apparently, they're just absolutely killing them right now. Like,
see, we were talking about going to Louisiana. One of my buddies was looking at the Atchafalaya swamp or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly where it is, but that must be Lagunitas.
Yep, Lagunitas. Yeah, IPA.
You can just tell my label a little bit. That's good stuff. We were looking at Arkansas, like, oh, it's pretty dry. And then we're like, well, shit, it sounds like Louisiana's got way more birds than Arkansas does. So
yeah.
And they don't get the out-of-state pressure nearly like Arkansas. So
well, I mean, Louisiana historically isn't the past. And I'm getting this information. I listened to On the X podcast. The dudes from Duck South do that, and they're like a Central Flyway focused podcast.
Yeah.
And apparently Louisiana the past 10 years hasn't been that great. They always kill gadwalls and teal, but apparently
it's been bad.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently right now they are just packed full of pintails, gadwall, teal, and canvasbacks.
That's a long ass drive for me.
Yeah, man.
about it, and we're talking and kind of poking around with it, texting between a few of us back and forth, and then somebody goes, "Ooh, 18-hour drive." Like, ugh. Shit. 'Cause we can get to like Northeast Arkansas in 12
Yeah,
to haul your ass all the way down there.
especially if you're bringing boats.
Yeah, boats is a killer. It just
Yeah,
doubles your gas, but it probably 50% more.
yeah. I mean,
Plus trailers and
Caleb, I don't know what he was. I mean, he was acting off of the information that he had, and he planned this trip out. But I mean, he's in Oklahoma right now. The dude lives in Louisiana and drove to Oklahoma.
that ain't too bad though. That's probably what, 6 hours?
He drove from Atlanta because
That's a hike then.
yeah, we were at my parents' house for Christmas. They live in Atlanta. So he drove from Atlanta. They stopped at our place in Mississippi, picked up some gear, and then kept on poking over to Oklahoma.
Was he hunting with someone?
Yeah, him and Scott. Scott's the other guy that hunts in our group. And I was gonna go, but I had something pop up for work, and I just wasn't sure if I could like. I just wasn't sure if I could like make it work, and I probably could have now that things have played out. But I mean, they're really not killing them that well in Oklahoma. Yesterday they shot a limit, and then today I think they only killed 3 or 4.
Oh, really? They were
Yeah,
hunting like public or what?
yeah, they're hunting all public.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's the kind of like when we were to Oklahoma 4 or 5 years ago. We got there. It was like freaking 80 degrees.
Hmm.
Super windy. Like our first day, we killed a few. Second day was good. Third day, good. And then fourth day, we didn't even pull the trigger. So I
Hmm.
always figured if on like a 3-day hunt, you kill have two good days. You're doing like that's phenomenal.
Hmm.
Especially on something like that where you just show up and you don't really know what's going on.
Right.
You're just kind of getting there and hoping it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope it plays out for them. So they're like duck hunting in the mornings, quail hunting in the afternoons.
Uh,
So
keep them busy at least.
yeah, they're keeping busy. I don't know if they shot a quail or not, but they're trying at least.
Getting
So
their exercise.
yeah, I'm headed to Mississippi tomorrow, which might just be completely pointless. I don't know. I just it's gonna be warm. It's gonna be like in the upper 50s. I know that there's not a lot of mallards in the area. Some gadwalls maybe. I
How
don't know.
far? How far are you from Missouri?
I would go to Missouri. I just don't have anybody to go with me to Missouri, and like I don't want to really do that whole thing by myself.
Yeah, it's
You
kind
know,
of something going.
like
It's. I just talked to a dude who said they're loaded.
packed
It's
full.
mostly northern.
Yeah,
Said northern is absolutely packed, but like the middle and the south aren't exactly packed. They said there's some.
that's kind of the word on the street right now is that all the mallards are just packed up in like that South Missouri. I mean, I'm sorry, that North Missouri kind of Boot Hill region, and then the Illinois right there.
Yeah.
I've got some buddies in Illinois. I should almost call them, see if I could pop up to Illinois for the week. I might do that. I don't know. We'll see.
You're going the right direction then, at least.
Yeah, I've got a wood duck hole behind my house here in Tennessee that I've been kind of saving. So I'm gonna go shoot that up tomorrow morning, and then I know that it's just packed full, and then I'm gonna come back here, pack my truck up, and I'm gonna go somewhere. If I can get a hold of somebody that's the thing is everybody's got jobs, right?
Oh yeah, you
So it's
can't
like
just take off on a whim.
yeah, it's like getting people to
Oh,
hunt during the week. I'm lucky in the sense that right now like I can pretty much do whatever I want whenever I want, and as long as I don't have like anything pressing.
sneak
But
out and go for a few days, and that's the ticket.
yeah,
I got a buddy like that too. He works for himself as a salesman. He could basically just go.
yeah,
If hey, I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday next week. What do you want to do? Yeah, I'll come out and hunt. Here he is.
yeah.
Doesn't even have to think about it.
That's my
That's,
situation. As long as I have access to email and phone, I'm
yeah,
good. I can.
yeah. It's exactly what he is too. He
Yeah.
just has to get the ticket from his wife.
Oh, luckily I don't have a wife quite yet. So,
Mhm.
and my fiance knows the deal. She's like, she knows that between pretty much September and through the end of January, it's like I'm gone, and then March fly fishing, I'm pretty much gone.
Yeah.
So
I'm got the same thing going. I'm not married, but basically am. But she's cool about it. Like I've never even had an issue. So
you got to set the precedent early.
That's exactly it. Guys get pushed around, and they're going on like their second date during hunting season, and they're like, "Oh, well, don't you want to go on a date?" "Well, I'm going hunting in the morning." "Well, can't you sail till 2?" "Well, I guess." "Well, now you're screwed."
Yep, you're super screwed.
You gotta just say, you know what? Here's the deal. It's hunting season. I'm not gonna be able to do it for now.
Yep, got to do it. So I've got this recording, but welcome to the Average Waterfowlers podcast. This is Phil Kahnke. The second time we've had him on the podcast, and you are very well received. Got a lot of positive messages about that podcast, and people loved it, and I think it's one of my favorite of all time. But yeah, man. So just wanted to kind of catch up with you, and I know I've been staying in touch with you pretty frequently since the last one, but I wanted to just kind of help tell everybody about how your season's been going, because you've had some pretty epic hunts.
We did. Our season, this was like the tale of two seasons for us here, at least in the southern part of South Dakota, probably the whole state for the most part. We were, as we were talking, it was incredibly dry. Oh man, well, all summer for us, and all of our little seasonal wetlands, all our little like shallow water marsh type stuff was pretty much bone dry. Mm-hmm. So we actually lost a lot of birds, I think, over the summer, and probably didn't have that many nests here in the first place. So we missed a ton of ducks, and season finally rolls around in September, and I was kind of right in the middle of building the duck blind on my boat, and that took me about 2 months. So I really didn't have a ton of time that first part of the season, but I tried to get out and scout a bit and just listen to everybody I know. Man, it was horrendous. I think I went scouting 3 or 4 times. We put on like 50 to 75 miles, make a big loop, and there was days I didn't even see a single duck.
Really?
This is in South Dakota, the duck mecca that everybody thinks of, and it was horrendous. And all of a sudden, like that end of October, right after I finished my blind, I think around the 20th of October is when I finished it. Right after that, we got a couple little north winds, no major cold fronts, just that time of year and some north winds. We had a few ducks push in. Went out, and basically from November on, we were having good hunts, but just off of small numbers of birds, and we were only seeing, maybe 200 to 500 birds in a day, mm-hmm. and scratching out a greenhead limit or real close to with 3 guys or 2 guys. And typically that time of year, you're starting to see in the thousands of ducks on most of our places that we're hunting. So it was ultra frustrating for October. I basically just felt like I was punting on the whole duck season, just like we weren't even going to do it. And here I go and spend all this time building this stupid duck boat, and I don't even have a duck to chase. So the north winds helped, and then really once mid-November hit, we started to have some ducks to hunt. But even then, we never saw the major migration like everybody, like we would have expected a few times. We got passed over a bunch of times. Seems like we always get hit with the snow when it's not snow north of us, and we get hit with snow and cold and north winds, and boom, everything ends up in Missouri or Arkansas or Kansas or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, we had some really good hunts. I mean, man, like a bunch of just like really cool ones out in the marsh. I had a cool 3-day vacation out in western South Dakota. Just went by myself. I hunted a little area that's luckily not too well known. Pretty fair amount of birds on that, and basically got to pick and choose my greenheads one at a time.
Nice.
That deal, that was fun. That was kind of the first real test of my boat, so that was cool. I dug that. And then we hunted in the river, our river spots a few times. Did pretty well. Nothing crazy. I mean, it was one of those deals where if you based your hunts on how many ducks you saw, you'd say it was miserable, but yet what we saw was very responsive. Mm-hmm. So we shot them. It just wasn't, we weren't seeing a lot of ducks. So we were having hunts till like 11 and noon. We'd shoot our 10 or 15 greenheads and be done around then, which was cool.
Yeah.
That's about the perfect time for me. And then I think probably my best one of the year was just maybe 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago. We had our second huge cold front come through, and we had 25-degree below temps for a day or two, and then like 10 below for a couple of days. So basically everywhere that I normally would hunt was, people were ice fishing on it. It was 4 to 6 inches ice. So we slid up to a different spot, and kind of a cool area where there's a little more current on a river and some big banks. And we slid my boat into up against the bank during a snowstorm. And essentially we were, invisible. You could walk 50 yards away and you couldn't even see the boat yourself, knowing it was there. It was just blended in. And I think we had three really big wads of mallards just kind of land basically at the front of the boat. So we killed our 10 greenheads, I think a hen. So 9 greenheads, a hen, mallard. Then we each killed our 4 geese. And then we shot other ducks too, like a Drake greenwing and a Drake goldeneye or something like that. And it was awesome. Like everything just super responsive to the call. Came in as good as they could. You couldn't imagine. Just the fact that there was no cover in front of us, and here's the boat just sitting there against this bank, and here they're landing 15 feet in front of your boat. You're just waiting for a second. You're waiting for them to flare any second, and they don't. And you're like, well, all right, let's take them, I guess. That was cool. That was kind of the end of my season. I've hunted twice since then. Had one good hunt and one really poor hunt after that. But really, as of yesterday was the last day I could hunt those areas. Mm-hmm. Our duck and our goose season still go for another month. Or actually, our duck season goes for 3 weeks in the western part of the state. Mm-hmm. And then our goose season goes into mid-February. So with having our duck season open up, it's out on the big reservoirs. You're hunting the ocean. You throw your little 100 decoys out and you kind of feel like a little speck. Mm-hmm. Feel silly out there. And it's one of those deals, the ducks just, you might be 2 miles away from 50,000 ducks and you never know it because they just sit there all day.
Right.
So I don't get into that too much. I like being in the marsh, being where you're hidden, that kind of deal. So the big reservoir thing isn't really my deal as much. So it's ice fishing season now for me.
Yeah, I remember when you had that last good hunt. You called me up and we were texting back and forth. You're like, dude, call me. And you told me that story. You were so fired up. You were like, dude, we were thinking we weren't even going to go.
Oh yeah. We contemplated. I'm like, should we even try it? One of my buddies had said he'd seen some ducks there 3 or 4 days beforehand. I'm like, oh great. They probably got blasted out of there. Luckily, it's just far enough away that nobody really gets up in there. Kind of a hidden little spot, and it was a good deal. One of them things where it seems like that's always how it works is if you don't expect it to be good, it turns out to be good. The days you think it's going to be phenomenal, you go and you're always let down. So we were happily wrong on that one. So
how have you liked the boat so far with the high-low?
Man, I would never go back to a fold-up, ever. I couldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah, it is. And all my buddies, a couple of my buddies, two, 3 or 4 of them that hunt out of it, that have fold-up fabric ones, they're all like, I can't do it. My one buddy who hunted with me, he hunts with me almost every day. He's like, he feels like the Tasmanian devil when he's in his boat because he feels like he's setting stuff up constantly and putting pins in. He's just going crazy, like just constantly pissed off dealing with it and having to set things up and strap this and strap that. One of the huge conveniences besides being out of the wind and having heat and having shelves and all that is you just pull in your spot and you hunt.
Right.
I don't have to set things up. I'm not yanking stuff up and putting a pin, pulling a strap up, doing this and doing that. You're not having to cut grass. It's just already grassed up. You don't deal with it. There was one of those days I was out west. I didn't get on my boat till like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I killed my greenheads. Put decoys out, killed my greenheads, did everything. I never got on my boat until 9 o'clock when I was going to go take some more pictures, and I had to move a few decoys.
Really?
Yeah. So, the dog is in and out without getting out. You just stay dry. It's just so much easier.
Yeah.
And they probably don't work for everywhere. Obviously, they would not work in the woods at all. It'd be a disaster. Mm-hmm. And anywhere other than that, we hunted spots with it where we literally had we set our boat on cattails, not in cattails, on cattails. There was just a little pocket of them around us, and we were just the boat out next to on some cattails on an edge of the lake, and we had big wads and mallards finishing close. And you just like it's not. You think it's not going to work. You just expect every time 100 yards, it's going to poof, be gone, and they keep getting closer and closer. And oh man, how does this work? And it's big enough, and it's poofing off, and doesn't have the edges, and doesn't have a box look to it so much. Yeah. So they're comfortable with it. I don't know.
I'm surprised that brush is staying on there when you're driving around, like trailering the boat. And I mean,
yeah, it's crazy because I mean I put thousands of miles on it this year already. Mm-hmm. What I did with mine is so I ordered like fast graph off of eBay, mm-hmm. And take that and I faced it out so the good side is out and up, and then I took some like garden fencing and laid it over the top of it from the front side. Mm-hmm. And then I pinned that to my boat, attached it that way. Then I spent like a day poofing all the grass, pulling it through that fencing, so it looks like that. Well, then the key is here in South Dakota where we've got tumbleweeds everywhere. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever seen, the stuff rolling across the roads like you'd see in the cartoons or in the old westerns, we have that all over the place. So you go find that, and you take it, and you just jam it underneath that fence, and I put it right with the wind, knowing that it's going to bend over that way so it doesn't break them. Uh-huh. And the soft, they're super tough, and so you just get them like that, and you get them up in there underneath that fence, and you get so a few of the branches kind of hook back into that fence. Mm-hmm. I lost a few. I think middle of the season, I went and got like half dozen more tumbleweeds, broke them up a little bit, and stuck them in some of the key spots. And some of them just get mashed down. And we had a snowstorm a couple of days where we were hunting, and like big, wet, heavy snow was on the boat. It kind of pushes it down. Sure. So it does lose a little bit of that 3D effect. By where we end out and sitting a little bit and set in our cooler, and you're gone now, like kind of get mashed down. So I put some new stuff there. But really, other than that, the stuff is phenomenal. And I used to look at one of the places I hunt, those boats, they're not uncommon. Not everybody has them, but there's a fair amount of them around like that. Mm-hmm. And I used to think, man, how do they hide those things? And what a joke. They look all puffy and stupid. And I always tried to go small. And then finally I hunted with some guys who had one last year, or hunted out them quite a bit. And they said, they just work. Yeah. So you think they don't work? You think it's a hassle, but it's just that tumbleweed just adds enough of a 3D effect to it that the ducks just don't notice it. Just like one of them big, huge, like it's like the panel blind.
Right.
It's like the panel blinds in the middle of a cornfield. If you throw a layout in the middle of a cornfield, all grassed up, and they still see that mound, they're gonna be gone. Right. Because they see it all the time. But if you have a big old, 12, 15-foot panel blind set up in the middle of a dang bean field, even people do it, and they still shoot them. It's just something that looks big enough and obnoxious enough that they really don't associate it with the hunter. So
that's crazy, man. Like, so there's this levee road. There's this river that flows right by our property that we lease, and there's this huge levee, and you drive up on that levee, and there's this road. You're just driving by rice fields and bean fields and all this shit that's all flooded out. Yeah. Most of them are dried out, but the blinds in them are in the middle of the field, and they're massive. Just absolutely these massive blinds. And you're like, there's no way guys work ducks out of those things, but they do. You just hear them shooting all the time.
It's crazy. Like you wouldn't like in this area hunting in too. There's permanent blinds, and it's funny because most of the guys with boats actually have their boat blinds grassed up better than the stupid permanent blinds out there. But yeah, some of them look atrocious. They're big yellow looking things in the middle of a brown cattails, and they're tall, and they're just uglier and sin, and the guys still shoot them. Yeah. Sometimes there's enough pressure there, and there's enough people around that I watch a lot of duck flare away from people. Most of the ducks we're shooting are level. Right. So if you were 500 yards away, you would lose the ducks. Mm-hmm. And then they'll boom, 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 then they'd come back up. Right. Most ducks that we see get shot are being shot up. You're looking, you can see them plain as day, and you see one duck fall. Like, right. Either they saw a mojo, or they saw someone's face, or they saw a big, huge boat blind not hidden, or a duck blind, permanent blind not hidden. So I think a lot of it just depends on how it's done.
Yeah.
Like if you do it well, it isn't necessarily even, I don't know how to describe it, but you can hide some big things pretty awfully and do it but do it right, I guess. It might not look good to you, but as long as it doesn't look like a duck blind
Right.
or something they get shot out of frequently, you're probably okay. Whereas if you try to hide a little teeny tiny thing and you do it miserably, ugh, brutal. You're going to be shooting them at 40 every day.
Man, it's kind of crazy. I think like it just depends on what those ducks have experienced. Like there could be one duck in that group that got shot at out of something that looked remotely like what you're in, because we've got this large blind, and it some days just flares the shit out of birds, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then other days you just have them lighting right your decoys. You're shooting them 3-4 feet off the water.
Yep, right there.
Right there.
A lot of it's probably lighting, I think.
Yeah.
Having the sun for some reason is such a big difference on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just see blinds. I don't know what they pick out about them, but the other thing too, you're talking about how one duck out of a bunch has seen them. That's why I always think it's way better to have a big wad. I would be 10 times more confident trying to kill a flock of 100 mallards coming over than I would a flock of 2.
Yeah.
Out of a flock of 100, you're going to have a few dumb ones in there that are just going to belly up to you, and the rest are going to come in. Whereas if you've got 2, and one of them thinks something's
weary, yeah,
oh, gone, and the other one's going to follow it.
Yep.
Like I always say, man, if we have like a single or a pair or a 3-pack or something, like I'm never very confident.
Mm-hmm.
If I see a flock of 100 coming over, just kind of floating, just kind of looking like they're going to work, and all of a sudden I think we got them. They're done.
Yeah.
We just don't see those ones flare near as much.
Hmm.
And really, that's one of the cool things this year. Like we had very few birds flare. Like man, like I remember the first day we hunted my boat. First day I ever took it out was on this lake. I knew it was going to suck. Me and another guy just took it out just simply to take it. Mm-hmm. And all on the stupid lake was buffleheads, which I hate.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't even want to shoot one. But we went out and we couldn't. I mean, there was no buffleheads won't even decoy. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a bad deal. I got this boat and buffaloes won't even decoy to it. What can I expect? So then the next day, or probably a week later, is when we hit the river the first time. Me and a buddy went out, and we scratched out a limit of mallards. And I was like, how does this work? I mean, we had ducks floating over us at 10 yards. And we just weren't shooting them, just kind of to see what would happen,
mm-hmm.
and just to see what they would do. And these birds are in a fairly pressured area. I mean, it's not Arkansas pressure, but it's as pressured as anywhere else in the country. I mean, a lot of people are in there. And they were just floating right over it, and you're like, all right. And we just kept doing it, and they kept working. Next pass, boom, they were trying to sit down.
Yep.
So, and they were that bigger flock. It's not that little scrawny little flocks on 1s and 2s. Because as soon as you get a pair or a single, they'd get to 75 yards, and you might as well shot at them. They'd flare so bad.
Right.
Big wads would boop, come and sit right in. So
that's crazy to me. It seems like. Yeah, I guess like if the overall group consensus of the wad is like let's go in, those 1 or 2 won't really hold it up as much.
Yeah. See, for us, it's once we get them to break, we're like typically hunting. Almost never are hunting like right where the birds want to be. Mm-hmm. We're all like in between where they're roosting and somewhere where they're either going to sit for the day or where they're going to feed or whatever. So we're just underneath them, and all we're doing is just trafficking them off of there. So if we can just get 1 or 2 ducks to break, mm-hmm. usually the whole flock will just collapse, and they're down and on you, within 1 pass, in and done.
Yeah.
Because you got those ones to break, and they hook, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it works like that, but it's like those big flocks or something about them that they just give each other the confidence just to keep sucking on in there. Right.
We're not really seeing groups like that. I mean, we will if we're out hunting off the river. We'll get some big groups, but like where we're hunting on our lease and stuff like that, or even off the, just like the smaller lakes and whatever public land we're hunting around there. You're not really seeing groups of 100. You're seeing 15. 15.
That's typical for us, too.
Yeah, it's just like...
those flocks, even that size, I feel way better with than the little teeny ones.
Yeah.
And there actually some years, a lot of years, we would see flocks of 100, or 40, or 50, or 60, or 100. Man, this year, only a couple like that. A couple
Right.
days, everything else was scraping out 10s, and 5 to 20 was a decent flock this year. So for the most part,
I mean, right now we're just not even seeing
no,
birds. That cold front 2 weekends ago that came through. I mean, we had a couple thousand birds in the area, flying over us, and then we saw a bunch of high birds push in. But I mean, everything was locked up, and then it was time for everybody to go home for Christmas, so we couldn't really take advantage of the thaw. But my brother stayed. And he didn't really kill them. And then I've been talking to other guys in the area, and no one in our area. And so we're in Tunica County, Mississippi. If you look at where Stuttgart is, we're
yeah,
directly east.
oh yeah,
We're not far from Stuttgart
yep,
at all. And I mean, guys are having a hard time. There's some amazing property around us that this group of really wealthy guys own, and I mean, you're not even hearing them shoot. It's like
brutal.
brutal. The few thousand birds in the area, the pressure's so high for what little water there is that it's like they got their one spot that they're going to that they know
They get stale awfully quick in that scenario.
real quick, dude. So, and I've been putting in miles scouting when I've been down there, just driving around trying to figure out if there's anywhere that I can get into that's holding birds, and I just haven't found a spot. Like, they're hitting private land that
Ugh.
we're just never going to get permission to hunt.
So that's what's crazy is when a few times I've been down south, like we don't even pretend to ask for permission there, whereas around here it's just kind of the deal.
Yeah.
You just have to ask. I mean, the birds use public, but there's so much land that's just not getting pounded.
Right.
The birds private or public, depending on what it is on the given day where they got shot off of.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost have to be able to hunt public. But even here, it's not. It's way better than it would be in Arkansas or Mississippi or Tennessee or any of those places. But yet, there's still enough of the scenarios of, oh, my nephew hunts or my uncle hunts or such and such that you get turned down a bunch. So
Yeah.
but we're lucky to have public to hunt that isn't totally overran and can still kill birds off of it.
Yeah, the public is typically not that overrun in our area. Like, the public is like a very underutilized asset, I feel like, in the South. People in the South have this like perception that if you have to hunt public, like, they just don't want to do it. So I mean, my brother and I have been hunting public. They just feel like it's less than, it's like there's this stigma attached to it or something. And my brother and I have been hunting public our entire hunting career. We still hunt public. I've hunted my lease this year, like actually hunted it, I think 3 times. And I've been duck hunting probably in that area 20 times, somewhere in that neighborhood on public. But there's just not that much water,
Well, that's gonna kill you.
Yeah, so it's just.
It's kind of, I don't know if I had a post on Instagram the other day where I talked about that. And I would consider, to me, Southern Illinois is the South.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much, obviously not like Mississippi, but it's still Southern. It's just it's that duck culture where everybody hunts and there's tons of pressure. And it's a whole different scenario than up here. And like, I remember the first day we were hunting, like the night before our first hunt, I wasn't sure we were going to hunt. And I talked to some guys and they had invited me to go with. I'm like, all right, I can do that. And I'm like, well, do we need to go out and scout? Because it was still light out. And they said, no, we'll just go to our lease. I'm like, oh, are there birds going over it? Oh, I don't know. There might be.
Yeah.
Like, don't we want to go like look and see or maybe check another spot out? I mean, I'll tell you, if I would tell any of my buddies that, yeah, I hunted the same spot 3 days in a row and there hasn't been any birds over it, you want to just go hunting tomorrow? Like, not there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, I'll go get in the truck and drive around and look tonight. None of them, and nobody. They thought I was crazy for asking the question if I wanted to go scout. Like,
the deal with that is that, so having hunted in North Dakota in a very similar terrain as you,
oh yeah,
is
same
that
idea.
you can really scout that though. Whereas in the South, it's much more difficult to scout, like because it's
Trees.
just trees everywhere, man. Trees
That's
everywhere, and you're like little pockets of bottomlands and water and whatnot
you
that
probably just can't see it.
you
It
can't
is.
see it from the road or anything like that from binoculars. So that's the tough part. You know what the reason is that people don't hunt public is because a lot of that public land you can't take a four-wheeler on it,
Oh yeah, so it's
and
not easy.
they're just lazy, man.
Oh dude, I learned that when every year we've been to Arkansas, we learned that.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a year, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, we had damn near like, and we were alone for Arkansas public, considerations. We had nobody within probably 500 yards of us a couple days, and then we had thousands of birds swimming around us, and we were killing them. I mean, there's thousands of birds we were kicking out on our walk in, but no one was walking to them because
Right.
there's no boat lane to the spot.
Right.
So you had to park your boat and get out and walk probably a third of a mile to get into it, and there was nobody there. And it was just crazy, and we were like, this is unbelievable. If there was this many ducks, from where I was at in Minnesota, or somewhere in Minnesota, there would have been 500 people back in that little spot because people did that. It'd have been insane. And we were dragging our boats through 500 yards of cattails and mud and whatnot. Because of nothing that we had there, you could ever drive a four-wheeler to, and the lakes were all different, so there's no boating right to a spot typically.
Right.
So, yeah, I kind of realized that if it's not easy, there's a small segment of the population that's going to find them.
Yeah, I'm part of that segment. If it's not easy, I guarantee I'll be back there. And if it's only a third of a mile, that's easy.
Oh,
yeah, to me, like
yeah.
I'll put in 2 miles through bottomlands just through mud. I don't care.
Yeah, it was really simple. We threw decoys and guns in a sled, drag, just walk woods
man.
in knee deep water is all it was.
Yeah.
Yep. But everybody else was back on the boat lane. I'm like, all right, have at it, man. With people 50 yards down from you, we would just walk right past them. They're like, where are these guys going? See ya.
We figured that out. My brother and I figured that out real early in college. Is like there were like these spots that would only be a couple hundred yards from the road. You park your truck, those spots would be slammed every day.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And just like, all right, well, you could keep on walking further back and get away from those dudes. All you have to do is show up earlier,
Yep.
So
people don't do it.
People don't do it. It's interesting why. It's interesting, like getting back to talking about when we first signed on. Is like I feel like in the South, especially, like people just are way more out of shape, and
that could be.
And
we got a pheromone here.
Yeah, man, it's just like, dude, train. Well, I mean, right? Because from your elk hunt, right? Like I spend my off season thinking about hunting season and how I'm going to be a better hunter.
Yeah.
And so I'm working out to become a better hunter, which working out does not, and by any means, mean that you're going to kill ducks, but
it doesn't increase your hunting skill, but it increases your opportunities that you're going to give yourself.
Potentially. Yeah. And that in my scenario, and from my experience of hiking into spots where no four-wheeler access is allowed and you can't get a boat back there, then
you
just got to, grade it out.
Carry 2 dozen decoys and go.
Yep. So that's it.
One of those deals where you see the picture of Jeff Foyles all hardcore and there's no days off. It's that kind of deal, where it's tough. But it's true to some extent, as much as I laugh about it and joke about it, how people try to make duck hunting seem like it's some like big battle. But some of it's true. I mean, if you put in more work, you're typically gonna shoot more birds.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well,
I know it's true in Arkansas. I know it's true here. The spots I hunt on the river, there's guys that will hunt the exact same hole on the Missouri River every single day, no matter whether they shot ducks there, whether they haven't shot a duck there for 3 days in a row. They're going to hunt there again because that's where they hunt, and they can hear ducks getting killed a mile away, and they're not going to go investigate. They're not going to mess with it because that's where they hunt.
Yep.
Same thing with the guys in some of the spots in the woods, everywhere, because this is their spot. This is where they're going to hunt. This is how they know how to get to. They know where to put decoys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just simple, so they're not going to do it. So
they got their one.
And I'm glad there's people like that.
Yeah, me too. Because we killed
out watching the sunrise, not worrying about shooting ducks quite as much. They're just not as mad at them yet.
Yeah, I mean, hey, more power to them. Like that whole out there every day duck hunting is super tough. Like, or the guy that thinks they're like a badass because they duck hunt multiple days a week. Like, it kind of cracks me up because it's not that tough. Like, all you have to do is be comfortable when it's cold. And,
yeah, exactly.
It's like it's really not that hard.
It's not, and the funny thing is most people are never in like dangerous circumstances. Mm-hmm. And there's some people who hunt big lakes, and I hunt the river, and I'm always on big water, so it's kind of adventurous at times.
Yeah.
A lot of people are parking their truck, walking 100 yards to a little pond, setting up in a foot of water, or setting up in a cornfield. No, it's not really an adventure. You're not threatening. Your life isn't threatened in this scenario. Yeah. It's not that tough. And if it was that hard and you hate it that bad or it's that much work, you just don't go then.
Yeah.
That's how you think of it. So you're not a tough guy because you go shoot 5 little mallards,
But more power to them, dude. Like, especially if they're new hunters. Like we spent probably a season going to the exact same spot. When we first started duck hunting, no one taught us. We didn't know what we were doing. We just knew that we had to go to a place with water and hope that ducks would show up. And, like, it just so happened that the first couple times we went there, we killed some ducks, But then we never killed any. We never killed them again there,
And it takes a while to get that beaten out of you. Yeah. To get that, because you have to, like, I've done that where I'm like, God, we killed him the last 2 days in a row. I'm going to go again. We're going to kill him. And then you don't. And then you try it one more time. Like, all right, I was dumb to do it again. But I got to go somewhere else this time. So
yeah, it's you gotta be willing to switch it up. I think that's like the biggest thing about duck hunting is just your willingness to switch it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, and then there are the times like that I find myself in this year where it's like you're just not gonna kill them because there's
weather, lack of ducks, who knows, wind.
And you can't let it get to your head. You have to keep going. And, like, last season was a really bad season for us too. So, like, we've had, at this point, 90 days of really bad duck hunting. And it's just like, I swore up and down after last season because we put in a lot of work. I swore up and down. I was like, I'm done. Like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with duck hunting. Like, I just, like, I got it beat me up, man. And then, I got fired up again, a couple months later. But,
you have to lick your wounds a little bit.
You do. You just gotta keep pushing. Keep pushing and keep learning, Well,
there's always just different stuff. I mean, heck, a week can make. I mean, like I said, I was like bummed out in end of October. I was feeling like my whole duck season was flying by me. Here I was, basically halfway into South Dakota's duck season, and I hadn't even killed a duck yet.
Yeah,
that has never happened since I was 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
This is ridiculous. And all of a sudden, a week later, I get myself in a little pile of greenheads, and all of a sudden, my whole spirits change, and boom, I'm feeling on top of the world. I'm ready to roll. I'm looking at weather again. I'm all scouting again. I'm getting ready to make a trip. I'm talking to buddies. I mean, we're all back in it again, and it just takes a little bit to do it. And so a lot of it's kind of mental. I mean, obviously, I don't think mental is the actual killing them, but just the keeping hunting and the continuing on.
Yeah, perseverance.
Yeah, guy just has to keep doing it. There's a lot of people. I'll tell you what, they have a lot of perseverance that continue to not shoot ducks over and over. And I see you see posts on Facebook or something where, this season's this, and we've shot one duck in 130 days. And I'm like, oh, man. And this is my third year. I've only shot 4 ducks. Are you kidding me? You got to do something different. Go find a buddy that knows what he's doing. Or, especially when there are places that have ducks. Like, you see it in Michigan and the northern states that have ducks. I mean, there are clearly ducks in those areas.
Yeah.
You got to learn some new tricks and techniques or something.
Yeah, man. It's getting with guys that, or listening to podcasts, whatever you can do to improve your game. Because if you're not killing them in a state like South Dakota,
Oh yeah.
you gotta change something up.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's something that you can do to kill ducks. You might have to travel further than 15 miles. You might have to do something. I think that's a lot of it too. People just don't want. Like when I was younger, man, I thought like driving 30 miles was like the end of the world. I was like, oh, we gotta drive all the way over to such and such lake to get them. Let's just go here. It's only 10 miles away.
Yeah.
And as I grew older and hit my probably late 20s, 30s, I'm like, you know what? Let's drive an hour and a half, but have a phenomenal hunt.
Right.
Rather than sit somewhere for the whole day and shoot 2 ducks and piss and moan about having no ducks around and being mad, let's drive a little extra bit. So, I mean, I routinely drive an hour now, if not 2 hours sometimes, to go find ducks and know it's going to be a good hunt and be in a place I want to shoot them.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I think that's a lot of it, too.
Yeah.
Some states you drive 2 hours, you're out of the state probably.
Yeah.
That just puts me barely out on the edge somewhere.
That's a problem is like where we are at, you know, for us to get to where the ducks are at. I've already got hunting licenses in 4 different states, I think, right now. And so for me, you know, to stack on an Arkansas, Missouri, and an Illinois license, it's like, you know, I'm looking at thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Plus gas.
Yeah, plus gas, plus a hotel room, because I'm not going to just stay there for one night. So the money part, you know, slows guys down too.
Adds up quick.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I've been looking at buying a little cabin down in one of the areas I hunt. It's only like an hour and a half away from me, but it's one of those deals where if I could find a little cabin with a garage, it's heated, and if I pay, it's cheap. I mean, it's a rural area. If I could find one for $40,000, get something that's livable, and stick my boat in it on the days I'm not working. So all of a sudden, if I have one day off, I go down there the night before, hunt that day. I might not work till noon the next day. So all of a sudden I can hunt the next morning for a few hours, ditch my boat, change in my little cabin, and get up to work. All of a sudden I might like double my hunting days.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Plus, I'd be way more likely to go simply due to the fact that I don't have to pay for a hotel. I don't have to deal with a boat, everything being frozen and cold, and just everything is simpler when you have your own stuff. You can leave your clothes later on if you want. You can have a dog in, all that stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
There's always motels in little rural hunting towns in South Dakota are going to no dogs in the motels. Blows my mind. That's what they live on. A couple of them, that's the only thing they get is hunting traffic, and there's no dogs in the motel. Like,
really?
Yep. So basically I'm gonna end up buying a place because of that. Because I'm not, especially if it's 10 degrees, I'm not leaving my dog out in the truck.
Yeah.
I don't ever leave her in the truck for that matter. But even then, I surely don't want to. So
yeah,
she'll sleep on the foot of the bed and be good to go.
$40,000, dude. I mean, that's a totally affordable mortgage. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like $150 a month. Drink a little less beer that month, and I got my own camp paid for.
Yeah.
So, or whatever little luxury I want to give up for a few years and pay it off, and plus then have some. If I got a whole bunch of friends from Minnesota, friends from around here that would go down there. If they stay there, throw $20 in a night.
Yeah.
Also, you pay it off in no time.
Oh yeah, man. We bought a trailer.
That's kind of what I would probably do.
Yeah. So that has been massive for us. And then we were supposed to move into a house that we're renting, or we're going to rent, last month, but something slowed that down on the lease's end. And then so we'll have a house in Mississippi and then a trailer that we can keep somewhere else. Like you can find like a
nice.
Whatever. So if we need to put a trailer up in Missouri and we just hunt public land up in Missouri, then that's something that I think is totally doable.
Trip's so much more doable than just having a place, just a home base, just to work out of. And that's the other thing. A lot of my hunts, like I mean, if I'm off, say I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of a week, and I don't know where I'm going to hunt until Monday. A lot of times, no, I've got my boat hooked up and I know everything's packed, and the dog's with me when I go to work, and I'm leaving Monday night from work, but I don't know if I'm going north. I don't know if I'm going south. I don't know if I'm going west.
Right.
It just depends on where the birds are, what the weather's doing, what I've heard from my little hunting network of friends.
Right.
But if you had a place all of a sudden in a certain area that was, things weren't just awesome in a certain spot, and, well, you know what, we can go out to the cabin. I know there's some birds there. We can go do that, and it's easy.
Right.
And try to find like a motel 2 days, especially in South Dakota with all the dang pheasant hunting traffic we get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our motels are booked solid pretty much through October.
Oh, I bet.
So it's a son of it. Once November hits, and trying to find a motel in October it's not going to happen unless you get incredibly lucky.
Right.
So if you have just a place all of a sudden just crash, you don't have to worry about that, and you're not going to be maybe staying 30 miles away from where you want to hunt. You can just stay right there, essentially, or whatever. So
my brother and Scott are camping in Oklahoma right now, so they are sleeping in a tent. Yeah.
Like a little tent or like a wall tent?
Like a little 3-season tent.
Whew,
Yeah.
That's tough to do duck hunting.
Yeah.
I've done it in a wall tent before, with a wood stove. But trying to do it in a little tent is tough to dry everything out.
Oh yeah.
Duck hunting is so gear intensive for the most part. It's a son of a gun.
Yeah, especially when shit gets wet, man.
Oh, it's like your gloves are wet and your hat's wet and your pants are wet. Everything's wet.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if a guy was field hunting, it probably would actually be pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it in some cold weather and whatnot, but trying to hunt water out of a little tent that's a battle.
Yeah.
The power to him. I don't think I can do that.
Dude, I'm before this fly fishing season kicks off, I'm buying have you ever heard of Kafaru?
Oh yeah.
So I run their packs.
Yep.
And
teepee?
Yeah, I'm getting a teepee and a stove. So
those are like that little 2-pound stove.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be able to hike into the backcountry and get to some gnarly water and just pound fish. And March here is pretty cold.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's gonna be a game changer for us. It's expensive as balls. It's gonna cost me like $1,500, but I think it's gonna change up our game.
But if it gives you that much more opportunity to go, a buddy of mine, guy I work with, is looking at it. The same deal. He actually ordered the stove. He just doesn't have the teepee yet.
Yep.
Man, I mean, the thing weighs like nothing.
Nothing.
And if it changes, like all of a sudden you can go fish for a 3-day trip or something and stay warm and comfortable when you're in your tent, like especially if it's raining a day and you're just not going to fish, or if you're not going to, or if you're elk hunting and you're not going to hunt because of it, or if it's just nasty out and you're just chilling there and you got a little bit of warmth, kind of totally changes your spirits having a little fire going.
Oh yeah.
This is just sitting there getting wet and cold, and especially in that deal because they don't have a floor, do they?
No, they don't have a floor. Yeah. But you can carry Tyvek with you. So you just take like Tyvek sheets out there, which is super light.
Yeah.
But my brother and I, so obviously elk hunting is going to come into play for that. But my brother and I are looking at going on a archery caribou hunt in the Alaska Yukon.
Ooh, yeah.
And that, we'll take a float plane in, they'll drop us off, and then we'll just kind of hike. And I think that setup will come into play pretty well for us out there. So we're trying to put that together. Huh?
So that'd be the ticket for that deal.
I know, right?
One of my guy I work with just did that this last year. He did the caribou hunt, but he did it in Alaska, but he did it in the mountains.
Really, mountain caribou.
Not on the tundra.
Yeah, I think we want to do it on the tundra just because I think it'd be cool as shit to see that migration. Oh
yeah, amongst however many thousands are moving past you.
Yep.
How cool would that be?
Yep. Sorry, I'm telling my girlfriend I'm on a podcast right now. So yeah, man, how'd your elk hunt go? You killed a cow, didn't you?
Yep, I did. It was cool. I had an absolute blast with that. Like I I didn't know how much I would enjoy it because I went out scouting 2 different times ahead of time, and I never actually saw any elk. Didn't hear any elk, in late August. I was like, well, this is interesting. I saw an elk sign everywhere. So I'm like, well, I know there's elk around, so I'm just going to go back and try it. So one of my buddies from Minnesota who has elk hunted before, he's just an all-around good hunter. He came with me. We went out and set up camp. And every day we were on elk like crazy. And like the difference for me is I'm not like an archer where I'm like comfortable with the bow. I can shoot to 40 yards comfortably, but I'm not like the guy who all of a sudden can like snap, shoot, boom, and just be ready in awkward situations. I kind of need to have my shit straight so I'm set up right and do all that. Like shotgun can tell me there's a duck on my right and I'm going to shoot it just like that. No biggie. But I'm not that way with the bow at all. So I had several times where there was 3 or 4 times on our first trip where there was cows, because I had a cow tag, where there was cows within 30 yards of me and I just couldn't get a shot, or I couldn't move, or just something goofy, they were behind a stick, or I was sitting facing the wrong way, and all sorts of weird stuff. And it was just awesome. And we had bulls bugling in the fog 40 yards away from us that we couldn't see. We had bulls bugling all around us, and we were amongst elk almost the entire time for 4 days. And so it was super cool, and there was really no other hunters right by us. So we had kind of 2 or 3 different groups of elk. Groups of like 50 to 60, 3 different ones, 2 ourselves for the most part, that we kind of plucked at the edges at and tried to get into them. And just, if something would happen, the wind would switch or whatever, and they'd bust us and then gone, and we'd go to the next bunch. And tons of walking. I absolutely loved it. We actually backpacked in. We were in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Nice.
And it's big country, but it's not like mountain. It's like mini mountains is what I would call it. There's quite a few roads, so you're never like more than a mile or 2 from a road. So we probably wouldn't have had to have backpacked in, but we did. And I kind of wanted to, just in preparation, like to do the mountains here this next year. So we backpacked in, did all our stuff. Even that was cool. We had elk walking like 20 yards away from us at night.
Nice.
In the dark. It was a blast. Well, I didn't end up shooting one my first time. Never actually got a shot. I drew on one, didn't kill one, didn't get a shot. And then I'm like, I got to get back. So I kind of finagled a way to get like 3 days off, and I ran back out one night after work, got set up at like my tent set up at midnight, slept for a few hours, was super tired, ended up sleeping in the first morning, and I woke up and it was basically light, and I woke up to bugling.
Really?
And I was super tired, and I laid there for a minute yet, and I'm like, maybe I can just sleep a few minutes. It's not super close. And all of a sudden it got closer. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get up. It was pretty cool that morning. So I wake my ass up out of my tent and start getting dressed, and then all of a sudden I'm like, and this is kind of the funny part of the story. I'm like, I gotta take a poop. So I'm like, God, it's bad. This is bad. So I'm like off to the side of my tent a little bit, pooping up against the tree, and all of a sudden coming down this ridge, I hear it sounded like a freight train coming at me, and I'm like, oh Lord. And I hear bugling and I hear cows, and I'm pooping, and there's like probably 60 to 70 elk run like 100 yards away from me, and I'm sitting there watching them, pants down, and there's bugling and there's trees crashing and breaking and branches snapping, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I finish up, let them walk off up and over the hillside, run, kind of scoot back to my tent, grab my bow, get straightened out, follow them, get relatively close. I was like 75 yards away from the suckers. Wind was perfect, and kind of just waiting for the last few stragglers to move off so I could maybe move around on them again. Thinking, and I had actually called a little bit, and came to like 60 yards, which is out of my range. They're looking, and they stopped, and all of a sudden everything just spooked. I'm like, what in the hell? Well, like 20 seconds later, dude pops up on the other side of the ridge. And I'm like, So we saw each other, went, talked for a minute. He went one way, I went the other. And I followed this bunch of them. And I ended up probably 6 or 7 hours killing one out of this bunch after I kind of chased him around. Like an hour later, I got on him right away again. And didn't know it. I was call calling, just kind of float calling through the woods and listening. And then made a little call, and I was cutting across, like trying to stay behind him, behind the wind a little bit to the angle. And all of a sudden I was looking down, and I look up, and I'm in the woods, but didn't have a ton of cover right around me.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing I know, there's like one cow at like probably 60 yards and two right behind her at 10 more yards. I'm like, oh shit. And I have no cover, no nothing, so I stop. You know, my no arrow knock, no release ready or nothing. So I stand there, and they get to like, they're coming. I'm like, well, I at least got to try to get an arrow off. So I get an arrow off, get it knocked. I'm ready, but I have my bow kind of drawn, kind of up.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to like probably 25 yards, and they're staring at me. I'm in the wide open for as much as you can be in the woods.
Right.
I surely can't just draw now. So they stand there. We're just like staring at each other. I'm looking down, you know, like this, trying not to make eye contact. And they kind of spook a little bit. The one bolts off maybe to like 40 yards, and it stops behind a tree. I'm like, oh, sweet. So I draw real quick. I had to like lean back, and I could perfect clear shot. And I'm like, and I figured it was about 40 yards. I'm like, okay, bottom pin. I got a 20, 30, and 40 yard pin. I'm like, bottom pin. And I get on it, and my arrow was like, woo, like into the sky. I mean, it like, that's how it looked like, at least. I mean, It flew over its back by like 2 feet.
Oh man.
And I'm thinking to myself, what in that? How did that even happen? What the hell? And so I go back, and they take off, you know, and they run back towards this herd. And I'm like, what the hell? And I think about it, and I go find my arrow, and I'm pissed off. You know, God, I do all this work, and I practice, and blah, 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 and I screw it up this bad. What's going on? Well, I get to thinking, I actually have a fourth pin on my bow that I just shoved down to the bottom of my sight pin. And in the heat of the moment, I'm thinking bottom pin. You know, it was probably like an 80-yard pin or something. Who knows, you know. Whatever it wasn't good for 40. So kind of pulled my head out of my ass on that deal. And luckily, like, as I was walking looking for my arrow, there was bulls bugling like 200 yards away. So I find my arrow, get back on them, sneak in, get to like 60 yards again from this whole herd of like 50 bulls or 50 elk. There's a lot of low, like nice, like low low pine cover, like bushy pines. I don't know what they're called, scrub pines or something. I get in there on them, and I'm like, oh man, and I couldn't get any closer because there was a little bit of an opening, and they were in some thick timber, and it was probably noon, and all of a sudden they just started to all bed down. I'm like, oh shit, and I couldn't get any closer, so I just chilled. And I took a nap. I was sleeping. I'd wake up. I'd look. I'd see them. I'd see ears moving back in the distance. You know, they were probably anywhere from 60 to 200 yards away from me. Just, you know, elk just filled up that whole little stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So I chilled out. The wind was perfect right in my face, like 15. I'm like, this is awesome. This is going to work out. One of them just going to come back and make a mistake, walk right past me. Sure enough, they never did. So, like, finally, like 4 hours later, like literally like 4 hours later, I'm like, I got to do something. Because they slowly started like getting up and moving away from me. You know, each one would get up and move 10 yards or 20 yards or 30 yards. So pretty soon I didn't have any real close to me. So I'm like, well, I got to make something happen. So I crawl on my hands and knees for probably 60, 70 yards to right to where the closest ones were.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you know, now the closest ones are still at 50 yards. I'm like, ah. So I crawl again on my hands and knees and belly crawl and across this pine floor, you know, noisy as heck, I thought. And I did this for probably an hour that I belly crawled on them and would play like cat and mouse with them. They'd all get up and move. Like they weren't spooked. They didn't know I was there. They were just moving their way ahead forward, and they'd sit down. And finally, I go, if I can get to that tree, there's a little clump of like 3 trees. If I can get to that one, because there was out close to it, but they were just a little over a ridge I could just see.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get to that, I'm going to kill them. So I kind of went as fast as I could without busting them. Belly crawled for like 40 yards. I'm dead tired by the time I get to the stupid tree. I get there, I'm like, and I slowly look up, like, oh my God, they're still there. You know, now I'm like, panic. Like, oh my God, this is actually going to happen. It's actually going to happen. Get my arrow out, get knocked. And I kind of slowly get on my knees up next to this tree. And there's like, ended up being like 6 of them, I think. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching them. They don't even know I'm there. I'm like, oh God. So I grab my rangefinder. Closest one was at 38 yards. I'm like, okay, perfect. Next one's at 40, and the other ones are back a little bit. Like, all right. it's like now or never, and like I gotta wait. But the one that was closest was angled away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't, its butt was facing me, so I couldn't shoot it laying down. I'm like, here's what's, and they're not gonna stretch it, and I'm gonna be screwed. So I'm sitting there, I'm kind of thinking of how all the scenarios could happen that's gonna play out wrong. And this all happened in like a matter of like 1 minute.
Right.
And I happened to look over to my left just a little bit more, and it was a cow calf. And I'm like, and it was at like 38 yards. And I'm like, I'm gonna take it because I had one more day I could hunt basically. I'm like, I'm gonna take it. So I leaned over and shot it a little far back. It ran off, and the whole herd takes off. And I didn't really know how well I hit it, and I knew I hit it. Couldn't find my arrow. Ended up, it went off and it died. It was probably 75 yards away from where it was, but I was pretty. Speak of the devil, my elk hunting buddy just called. So, but it was cool. I was pretty jacked, and then the adventure started for me because I've never killed a big game animal in my life. So I've never skinned the deer. I've never done anything like that. So I've watched a whole ton of YouTube videos. Okay, here's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I shoot the sucker, and like, well, now I get to start learning. So I walk up to it. I'm like, well, here we go. Cut it open and stab myself in the hand in the process. So I was probably bleeding more than the elk was during the whole thing. So, but it was cool. I got back. I finished cleaning it or getting it quartered out. Got back to my truck. Didn't have a very far walk out, like maybe a mile.
Mm-hmm.
Got it in 2 trips since it was a calf. Got back to my truck, cracked a beer, called a bull in the dark.
Really?
To like 50 yards of my truck as I recorded it for one of my buddies and sent him a text. He's like, that's freaking cool. I'm like, yep, I'm sitting here with the elk in the freezer, the beer, fire, eating some hot dogs, and having a bull come in. It was cool. So I had a blast. I'm super excited to go next year.
Hell yeah, man.
This year, I guess.
Hell yeah.
So even though it was a cow and it wasn't like, and it was just more a calf, I was so jacked to shoot that sucker. So it was fun.
Well, hey, if you want to go to Colorado, man, I've got an in with a group of guys out there that do pretty good damage in the Aspen area and in the backcountry. I mean, it would be a backcountry hunt for sure. You would be carrying a tent,
yep.
But
yeah, that's the deal. That's what I want to do.
So if you want to get in on that, I'd love to do it.
Look, I got at least one other guy going with me, so I'll have to see what his scoop is. But
yeah,
that's fun. Just being out there and of course it was super cool because I was always an elk. I never had that scenario where you're hiking for a day and you never get on them. So I'm sure once I run into that, the real stuff. I mean, Black Hills are different than the mountains, but I'm sure I'll be a little more frustrated. But god dang it, that was fun.
Do you watch like the Gritty Bowmen on YouTube?
I don't.
Dude, they are a podcast, like a YouTube podcast that's like 100% focused on elk.
Uh-huh.
And it's like this dude named Brian Call and Aaron Snyder.
Snyder though.
Yeah, that dude is he's like the main guy at Kafaru.
Okay.
But they have like guys like Corey Jacobson on all the time. Corey Jacobson is like a badass elk caller, elk hunter.
Yep.
And you can learn a lot on that. The older episodes are way, way better. Like the original episodes, like their new stuff is it's good, but it's just kind of like getting a little. They're just so popular now.
Yeah, probably only so much you can talk about at some point in time.
That and like they have to like constantly have the dudes from like that sponsor their podcast on, which is like a lot of dudes have asked me if I want
a commercial then.
Yeah, it's like a lot of dudes have asked me if I want to take sponsors, and I'm like, no. Yeah. Because then I have to do what they want me to do.
Your content then.
Yeah. I don't want to drink beer and cuss on my podcast. Like,
yeah, exactly. You don't have to be proper and make sure you say the right brand name so many times an hour and all that baloney.
Yeah, and two, like, on the duck hunting side of things, there's nobody out there that I'd really want to be sponsored by. You know, it's like there's not really any great, like, duck hunting company that I'd be like, wow. I'm really pumped to like work with these guys. Like
A few years ago, I would have said that absolutely for sure. There's a couple now that
Sika, I mean, Sika's makes
yeah,
phenomenal gear, but even then, like I'm wearing Kuyu right now. It's like, or I wear First Light all the time. It's not,
you're breaking up on me.
Oh, am
Hold on
I?
a sec.
Is it better now?
There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I was saying is like I'm wearing Kuyu right now. I wear some Sika gear, and I love wearing First Light too. Like if I'm elk hunting, I probably want to wear First Light. If I'm
Yep.
if I'm sheep hunting, I probably want to wear Kuyu. Like I don't want to be stuck with one brand.
Oh, for sure. And the thing is like each company like has pieces that are great for specific things. Because when I was hunting, I've got a pair of like Cabela's lightweight pants that I bought, that Instinct stuff, and for me they're dirt cheap, but I love them. And I have a pair of Kuyu Tiburon like super ultra lightweight pants.
Mm-hmm.
I love those, but then I bought another Cabela's lightweight shirt, and I got a different kind of hat and different gloves, and my boots are Mindles. I'm like, I don't want to have to like have like the uniform on.
Yeah, exactly.
It drives me crazy when you see the dang pictures on Facebook or Instagram, and there's 8 dudes, every one of them, Sitka hat, neck gaiter, gloves, jacket, underwear, something else popping out that's Sitka pants, Sitka underwear, Sitka boots, Sitka shoelaces. I'm like, but like they don't make the best of everything. I mean, they make great stuff.
Yeah.
You can't like tell me that everything that they make is always going to be the best for what you want.
No, and they're owned by Gore-Tex, so they're limited to Gore-Tex supplies, or Gore-Tex materials. Yeah. And Gore-Tex makes some great shit, but like Cabela's, for example, has Event rain gear, and Event is probably the best rain gear on the market. I mean,
that's stretchy.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yep. It's absolutely phenomenal stuff. So it's like, I'm a gearhead, man. That's another thing. It's like I like testing gear. Like I enjoy that process, and so it's like dudes on Instagram will be like, "Oh, who are you sponsored? What are your sponsors?" I'm like, "No, I'm not sponsored. I'm proud of that. Like I don't want to be sponsored, and luckily I make enough money to where I don't have to be sponsored. You
do it for fun, and whatever happens."
Exactly.
That's by far the way to go on that scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've always been like super anti-pro staff. I kind of teamed up with Higdon a little bit to help do some of their stuff with their like the media side of life. Mm-hmm. Pick up some decoys, which I don't have their decoys yet, but I'll probably get. I'm going to get some here for next season, and then for the spring photo season, I'll have some too because I'm definitely in need of new decoys. But I'm still going to have like my old G&H's, and I'm still going to have other stuff. I can never be that guy that's just like 100%. This is the only way to go. This is like the thing that just drove me out. It was batty. It was 5 and 10 years ago when the Avery Pro staff was around. And like if you would go on an internet page and say that, oh, I had a Avery goose decoy that the head broke on. Well, you must have been abusing him. You had I put him in a trailer.
Yeah.
The screws for a million things that happened to him, and then you couldn't say a bad thing about him. Like it was always your fault. You're like, no, dude. I've had Bigfoots for 15 years. I've never had a head break. But all of a sudden, I buy a dozen greenhead gear, Averys or whatever, and 2 of them are already broken. Like that's not my fault. No, that's the decoy's fault.
The decoy's fault. Avery and greenhead gear are by far some of the worst products on the market. And they just have a pro staff that is malicious.
They've at least gotten better. They were horrendous there like that years ago, but now they've finally gotten to like where they've got that commercial grade goose decoy. They got the 1-piece snow goose decoys. Their duck decoys don't chip paint like they did.
Do so they not? Because I haven't bought in greenhead gear in such a long time because of the paint issues. Like I figured they'd never change it up. They're better.
Yeah, they're good now. They've been good for a while. And like what's crazy is before they really hit the tank and just went downhill there, like prior to Banded buying them out, I mean, they were the only decoy that we sold. I mean, that was it. That was all anybody came in and asked for. I mean, they were the company, and then they just basically got driven in the ground by the management, by the guy.
Yeah.
And now I think they're kind of on the come up again. They're getting better. People are starting to buy them.
Banded, I didn't realize Banded purchased greenhead gear.
Yeah.
Did they purchase Avery in general?
They bought Avery, yeah. A year or two ago, I think. So yeah, they're the same company. Like I bought those banded waders, and they came in an Avery box.
Yeah.
So it's the same, one and the same basically.
Those banded waders are pretty legit. Like I hate everything else they make because a couple guys that I know have like bought some of their jackets and stuff like that, and they're garbage. But
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if anybody's a banded fan, but just compared to what you could get for the same amount of money, like you could buy a Sika piece for the same amount of money and get a better piece of gear. But those banded waders are legit.
A buddy of mine had the red label or whatever, the red zone or whatever they are, for 2 years now, and he's loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a fan of breathables, but they were just never warm enough. And he had the idea. I had a chance to pick these other ones up. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Holy crap, I love them. I mean, they're so much more comfortable than like a 5mm neoprene.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
almost warm on the legs. Like those days when it was super cold and I was standing in the water putting decals up, I could feel a little bit of the water coolness on me, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I mean, like in a 5mm neoprene, you don't feel anything. But yet, when you're sitting in the boat, you're clunky and you can't move, and they just suck. Whereas these things are super comfortable, awesome to walk in, like getting around in and out of the boat. They're awesome. And then like just like that. It sounds funny, but one of the things I love about them, they got this like super fleecy, like puffy, like that Sitka like beanie they make. It's a really thick, puffy hat underneath,
Yep.
and it's got shell on it. It's like that same kind of like fleecy stuff inside their hand warmers.
Yeah.
Man, they're amazing. You stick your hand in there, love it. So I'm totally sold on those things.
Yeah.
And I was not a banded fan before. Just and the sad thing is just simply one dude on that represents them just drives me nuts.
We made fun of him before on this podcast.
He's very polarizing, and I got the guys that I know that are in the company that I do like and I dig, and I'd say pretty not friends with, or acquaintances for a long time.
Right.
So I know that's not how they all are, but if they would just lose that one dude, man, that company could have a whole different clientele, I think.
Yeah, I would be excited to see. I don't know any of the guys over there, so I feel bad talking shit about them, and I shouldn't. So I try not to. I try not to talk smack about companies on this podcast. I try to like say.
Yeah, it's one of them deals where like if you don't know who it is, it's just super easy. Just be like, and I wasn't a fan of any of their stuff either, but I would probably buy some of it now. Definitely the waders, either those red zone or the same ones that I got. I'd buy them in a heartbeat again.
Yeah, Scott's got the red zones and he loves them, and I was thinking about buying the ones that you have, but they're like $600. See, I'm rocking the Cabela's Instincts right now, and I'm not having an issue with them.
Oh, the things aren't the boots in those things awesome?
They're like, great, except for getting them off.
Oh, I know. So that's I had them, and I had to return them because I had to have two of my buddies had like help me get them off one day.
Yeah.
Like I had to hold onto the boat, and they were pulling my foot as hard as they could. I thought my hip was gonna get dislocated. It was like that hard.
Yeah.
So I had to go back just to like the plain, like the Dry Plus breathables that we carry.
Yeah.
Those other ones. I did like the first time I ever wore them was oh man, this is probably 2 years ago. I was actually on the cover of Wildfowl, like not one of my photos, but me.
Really?
Yeah. You know who Lee Jose, I think is how you pronounce him, Lee KJOS.
I don't know.
Pretty big time waterfowl. They do all the marketing for like Benelli and Franke, Final Approach. They're huge. Steiner, Cabela's, they do a lot of it. But anyways, I kind of know those guys are from Minnesota, so they came out and they needed a marsh that looked like a place that I knew of. And so I said, here, this is the place. Well, next thing I know, they asked if I wanted a model. I'm like, no, I don't, because it was in spring, and I was taking photos of myself. I'm like, I'd rather do this. So like 2 days later, are you sure you don't want a model? I'm like, do you need someone? I said, okay, I'll do it. So, but they brought these waders with, and it was a mucky, nasty slough. But I'm like, this is gonna suck. I have to keep walking back and forth through this crap because I know what the slough is like. I hunt it, but it's big, open, low cover type deal, so you can see the background nice and no trees, no buildings, none of that baloney. And I had them Instincts on, and it was awesome. It was like walking with like tennis shoes, like cinched down as tight as you could. Like they weren't coming off. Like I could walk back and forth through nasty stuff without having like your foot come up 6 inches and then the boot comes with you.
Yep.
So I went and bought them right after that. Well, then they were too tight for me. So
I found the trick like to getting them off. You just have to like you can't let so you have to. The problem with them is they put that knob to kick the boots off. They
Yep.
put it too high.
Yep.
They need to put
Exactly.
it lower, but you have to like take half of one foot off, then get the other half off, and then like kind of work it from
Oh yeah,
there. But
it's a project.
It is a
There needs to be like
project.
a lever that you can like get to like smash them down. So like you push it off or get like a hydraulic like thing
Ski bindings.
or like Vaseline your feet or something. Maybe that would probably be a really good way.
Oh man, they're.
Hunting like nasty muck all the time. They are the ticket because they aren't coming off.
Do you know any of the guys at Cabela's R&D team like over there? Because you need to tell them that they're too puffy up in the top too. Like they need to be tighter. You know, they need to be.
You have just the regulars or the stout?
The regulars.
You just have. Yeah, I found the same thing.
That's another thing I hate about duck hunting. Like most duck hunting companies, they make it for fat people. I don't know what the deal is.
Nothing is like technical. Like all of our clothing. Like I mean, we're finally getting in like some of our instinct stuff that we had like that in that new O2, like the Octane O2 camo. It's kind of like that Via stuff from Kuyu. It finally was starting to get like a tapered cut to it, you know, so it didn't feel like you're wearing like a big tube around you.
Right.
And like the pants weren't like all nasty. They're kind of like slim cut. So we're kind of getting there. I don't know if our duck stuff is that way yet. I don't think it is. Yeah. But yeah, the waders are like a big, even in the red too. But
well,
it's getting there. Eventually they'll come around too, and duck stuff will all of a sudden become a technical thing. Just like, I mean, Sick is kind of changing it.
Yeah.
Changing that. Other companies are going to follow suit, I'm sure.
They're a marketplace changer for sure. You know,
yeah.
The problem has always been in waterfowl is that you had like the original guys like Avery making gear, and then you had Drake making gear. And Drake like came out when they first came out on the market. They were like kind of trying to change things up, and then I don't know if they got purchased by somebody and they became more of like a profit driven company or what happened, but their shit went downhill real quick. And then
because I have like 3 of their old quarter zips and I love them.
Yeah.
But I haven't bought anything new for probably 6 years.
Because they haven't changed anything.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Same deal.
Yeah.
I've got to the point now where like I almost wear we got those Cabela's waterfowler sweaters, just a wool sweater like with the patches on the shoulders.
Great piece.
Things. And they just look cool. They're like kind of different. I mean, like not that I'm trying to be like old school, but I don't use mojos. I hunt water, and I like to have that look. I bought Halo guys.
Yeah.
They came out with a
tin cloth, right?
Yeah, that wax cotton or wax canvas deal. I picked up one of those. I didn't get it till like December, so for me it was pretty much past the time I could really wear that.
Right.
I did wear it the other day. It was pretty warm. I just wore it as an outer layer. You're killing me, man. I'm all fresh out of beer in my whole house. I even drink up the Miller Lite. So
no.
I found that one Ranger here, and that's the last one anywhere. So I picked up that like wax cotton. I love that thing.
Really? Is it stiff? Because I've got a Filson tin cloth jacket, and it's stiff. Yeah.
No, Filson ones, I mean, that thing's like that thick. They're huge.
Right.
It feels like you're wearing a tank. But this one is actually pretty thin. It's thinner than I expected, but I kind of like it because I'm not gonna wear it on a day. I didn't expect to wear it on a day when it's 0 degrees and I'm boating 10 miles. But I figured I'd wear it for is either when I get to a spot or if it's 15 or 20 or 30 degrees and I just need to wear it over my like regular hunting sweater as a windbreak, zip that sucker up, call her good, and go.
Right.
It's pretty comfortable. I like it.
You can shoulder your gun pretty well in it.
Oh yeah, it's light. It's not at all like what you're thinking for a wax.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we've carried that Phil's bulky, and things are gonna probably last 500 years, but like either it's not practical, especially in a duck hunting situation.
Yeah.
Then you got weight on, and you're shooting awkward angles. This thing is like, it's like wearing like one of them like North Face I can't think of the fabric that they have. It's like wearing one of those jackets. It's like a smidge stiff, but yet really flexible.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Nice.
Good windproof. I dig them.
Yeah, I'm glad that those Halo guys are kind of stepping into the scene. They look like they might try to do something interesting. I hope they don't mess it up. You know?
Well, I think they're that's those Camp brothers are the guys. And I talked to Greg once in a while on the phone. Sounds like, I mean, he's got a pretty cool approach to duck hunting and just to stuff in general, but like to how he's taking his brand and what they're doing with it. It's pretty cool. They're taking their time, not jumping into anything, not getting in over their heads, and making good stuff. I mean, those jackets they're U.S. made.
Yeah.
They thawed them out. I like. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're a cool jacket. And there's nobody else out there except Filson that makes anything even suitable for a waterfowler's waxed cotton or waxed canvas jacket anymore.
Yeah. Barber.
McAllister used to make a cool one.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, I searched eBay and Craigslist all over the country on Craigslist looking for McAllister waxed canvas jacket. Could never find one.
Do they still make the sweater? They had a dope waterfowler sweater.
McAllister's done. I don't think they make anything anymore. Drake bought them out, and I think they just closed down the name.
Really?
I could probably look.
I thought Bass Pro bought them.
No, I think not Drake. Oh man, what's another company? Or was it Drake? I think it. God dang it! Yeah, I think it's Drake bought McAllister out.
I remember when their stuff was real big. Because their sweaters were really popular.
Drake bought them out. Then they basically closed. I think they closed out the McAllister name for the most part. Yeah, they were huge.
Wow, they did nothing.
Like a little bit lower line than like Filson would be.
Yeah.
Same like traditional type clothing.
Yeah, my brother has a Filson waterfowler sweater and he loves it.
Oh, those are nice.
He wears it all the time.
Those suckers nice. They got that patch on the shoulder.
Yeah.
They windproof or not? I don't know if do they have that lining in them?
I'm not sure. I've never worn it.
I dig that Cabela's one because that same idea with that sweater, but it's got that wind shear inside of it, so you can wear it dang near any temp.
Nice.
I'm having girlfriend sew on a waxed canvas collar for it. Cause I love collars because my neck. I'm like either neck gaiter guy or I need like a high collar to like put up like this because I hate my neck just gets cold and I'm done. So I'm gonna have her sew on like an actual like flip up collar so you can like sit outside the boat, sit up in the boat and watch and have a collar on. So I love wearing neck gaiters because they're warm, but I hate wearing them because they're clunky and when you go shoot away and just kind of a mess.
I can't stand them.
Yeah, if I can have that popped up just to keep that wind off, then have a hat, make it a tall so the collar don't be like way up to here on me, so it comes right over where your hat hits, so you don't have any like in between there. Mm-hmm. We get enough days where it's freaking cold that for as much as I hunt in cold weather, and I'm probably one of I've hunted on days when most guys won't be out on the river, and I've really never had the weather stop me. But yet I'm like the biggest cold baby in the world. And like I've got more clothing. And like when I walk into work on a cold day at work, I come in with this big, huge, puffy down jacket, hat, gloves. And people, like girls are walking in with like a little skinny North Face jacket. And I'm like, they're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, it's cold out. Like, I have the clothing to wear. I'm wearing it.
Yeah, dude. I would rather be cold. I'd rather be cold than be bulky. When I'm hunting, you know, I just can't stand being bulky, and
hate it.
I've got.
Reason why you build a big fancy blind like I got. You sit inside with a sweatshirt on, keep the heaters rolling, pop out to shoot real quick, and get back down.
That's nice, dude. Except for when you're driving that thing, you're just like in it.
It's funny because I'm like, it's actually not bad. Like I'm the only guy that gets cold because my buddies can sit all down below. Mm-hmm. So like I took my boss out here a few weeks ago and it was rugged. It was probably a month ago and it was like 15 degrees. We're on a lake and it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds and we were it was like a probably 4-mile boat ride straight into the wind. It was like quartering into the wind. So it was rough and it was in the dark and it was waves and I'm up there, water splashing, but I stayed pretty dry with the build of that boat. Me being way up front and having those walls up the front where the decoys are, it kind of knocks any spray down. Mm-hmm. But I'm up there getting beat up and cold, splash, and get there and my cheeks are all red. And him and the other guy are sitting in the back, and he's like, well, that was a nice ride. You stayed pretty warm down here. Yeah, I bet. I can't. Actually, the one guy rode with me. He was navigating a little bit. So, but yeah, like it's toasty. But for the most part, if I can tuck down, I can kind of get out of the wind a little bit. But yeah, that's the one thing. I always just bring a big overcoat. I have like a size like XL Duck Commander jacket I had from years ago. The thing is huge on me, but I can wear it over all my other clothes. Zip that sucker up. I'll even wear goggles. I got ski goggles I'll throw them on, and then just go.
Dude, that's the thing is like that's what gets you is your eyes, man. Your eyes and your hands, like.
Yeah.
Because I hate wearing gloves too. Like because my hands will sweat inside of the gloves, and so like it doesn't really do much for me. But like we've got this this one hole that's like I don't know, probably like a 40-minute 4-wheeler ride from where our trailer is, and when all that shit was freezing over, my brother and I were running pumps throughout the night and the day to try to keep the hole open. And so you would just cruise. You have to take a 4-wheeler. You can't, you take it on the road for a while. You're doing like 30 miles on that fucking 4-wheeler. It's awful.
Windshield on that thing.
Yeah. We don't have a windshield on it.
Big, huge difference.
Let
me guess, your thumb was frozen from driving a 4-wheeler.
Yeah, my thumb was frozen.
I get that. I get that a bunch. I had the other day plowing snow with the 4-wheeler. Thumb was just a bicycle by the time I got done.
Yeah.
And there's no way around. Like some cold stuff you just can't avoid. I get it right here, right in between my eyes, because like you can pull your hat down to here and you can pull your neck gaiter up to here, but you got that little bit. You get there and just like there's this like dead spot right in the middle of your forehead that you can't get around.
I don't even own a neck gaiter, so I just like roll without a neck gaiter. I put my hood on.
Oh yeah.
And just pull my hat down and just kind of try to get down. Dude, and I can't like that's the other shitty part for me is like I've got such bad shooter's ear. Like I've got maybe 30% hearing out of my left ear.
Oof.
And so I can't wear a hood like when I'm hunting.
I can't hear anything.
I can't hear anything. And I've got those like 3M earplugs that like amplify and then stop.
Yeah.
But the problem with wearing those is that you sound when you're calling.
It drives me nuts.
When you're calling, it sounds so weird, dude. You
hear it inside your head.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's like a different octave. It's the octaves aren't quite right, so you're like, what am I blowing right now? And so like you almost don't want to have the earplugs in. So I'm like playing this game. If birds are working, I'm like sliding an earplug into my left ear because I don't want to lose the rest of my hearing.
Oh no, that drives me nuts,
dude. It's bad, man. Like all of it is from shooting. All of that. I mean, I had bad ear infections growing up, but I've just been around so many guns going off right next to my ear.
That's a killer. I'm pretty picky like with who we hunt with because you get muzzle blasted a few times and you're done. I mean, it wouldn't take much. And I've had it a few times. I'm sure I've gotten people, but we're pretty careful about it. And we usually hunt like 3 people anyways. And kind of the reason I keep my boat to 3 people is we've got a hole, we've got a metal piece that goes in between us that's covered. It's 2 feet wide. So the closest you're going to be to someone is 2 feet away. Then the next person is perfect for that. So like, unless a bird was way up on top and way over, which we really don't shoot at that very much anyways, it's almost impossible for us to ring each other. But there's nothing that ruins your day like getting rung like that. And then the whole rest of the day you're sitting there, you've got just like that constant like buzz in your head and you have headache and you're pissed off and you want to be pissed at your buddy, but he didn't try to do it. And it's all around. And then a lot of people don't even get that like it hurts. Like people don't even like think that it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, are you nuts, man?
It hurts bad. And I hunt in the middle. So my brother's left-handed. He hunts the right side. Then Scott always hunts the left side because he just wants to. And so I get stuck in the middle. And this dude rings me almost every single time. It's like he doesn't even get it. But he's a good shot. He usually hits what he's shooting at. So it's like,
I don't know if that's worth my hearing loss. I have to give him a quick snap, I think, and say, dude, it's enough. I've had it. Oh, yeah, that's brutal.
It's tough, but it is what it is. Yeah, man. Well, did I lose you again? No, you're back. All right.
Yeah.
So you're
Oh,
you're done with duck season, huh?
we're gonna make a trip somewhere. I think in January. We don't know where yet. Looks like the weather's kind of starting to get right for some Arkansas stuff, for some water.
Yeah.
So we're keeping an eye on that. Talking about Montana. If it stays warm enough out there, we might do that. That's a 7 bird limit, 7 mallard limit, so that's pretty appealing.
Yep.
Um, Kind of talking. We've been talking Oklahoma. We were there years ago. Just anywhere with open water right now is the thing. I was looking at Kansas, but they're froze up for the most part. I think everything I've heard, they're froze up, other than some little rivers.
Did that dude from Freelance Duck Hunting ever give you a call?
No,
No.
yeah, about that.
Huh?
That was it. Yeah, public land. Was it public land hunters or yeah, something like that? He never
Freelance
did.
Duck Hunting. He's got a massive YouTube channel. But he was having issues with brushing his boat, and I told him to call you because you seem to have a pretty good system for it.
Yeah. No, God, did he? Did he maybe send me a message or something? I don't remember now. But yeah, I don't think he never called me or anything. So
Well.
yeah, I obviously like to talk about duck boats. So
Yeah, I figured. I was like, I promise you, this dude's gonna be pumped to talk to you about it. So.
my buddies last year this time when we were finishing up duck season, I had between November 1st and December 20th when our duck season pretty much ended. I probably had like a half dozen different boats I was gonna buy and gonna build different blinds. I was gonna do this, and I was gonna do that, and I think they were just like, whatever. You're not doing any of it. You've changed your mind 6 times in the past 3 weeks. You're not gonna do any of it. So I think they're probably sick of it and just glad to have seen me built one finally. So it was nonstop. I was like, I'm building a low. I'm building a high low. I'm building a collapsible on one side and this and that. And I'm gonna get a 20-footer. No, I'm gonna 18-footer. No, I'm gonna get this. I mean, it was just back and forth. And I was seeing different things and looking online for every kind of boat and reading what people liked and talking to everybody. And so I'm done for a while, for a couple of years at least. So
There you go. Well, I think you built a masterpiece from what I can tell. I mean, that boat just looks sweet. You got the cool thing about the boat is the storage situation too. Like you've got your bins for decoys. Like I mean, you've got that. You put a ton of thought into that thing.
Well, what I did was I've hunted enough and I've hunted big water, I've hunted little water, I hunt with collapsible blinds, I've hunted with some semi-permanent blinds. And then I looked at some of the other guys that were making blinds like I wanted. And I'm like, you know what? They're cool, but the decoys would just be a disaster in them, and they are I couldn't imagine taking 100 duck decoys and having to carry them inside the blind every time you want to set up. Like that would suck. So I built mine all on the front outside, and you can work all of them from the water or from above if you want, however you want to do it. You can put them away up above, from the water, or you can pull them out from when you're in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the part that I'm most proud of. That and the ladder.
The ladder.
It's so funny, but my ladder kicks ass. Like every ladder that you buy online, is or from a company is pure junk. Like they're narrow or they're too short. The dogs can never get on them. Or for people that are a pain in the ass. Whereas this one, that I built, son of a bitch, you can take a 350-pound guy and get in the boat with no problem because it goes down in the water that far, bigger than my screen shows. But it goes down in the water probably 1.5 feet. So for us, we can be in water damn near the top of your waders, and you just put your knee on it, pop yourself up, and go. Nice. Or the dogs swim right in. We don't even have to every other dog ladder. You have to get over and get out and grab the dog and pull them up by the collar and stretch their neck and just a pain in the ass.
Right.
But the dogs just zip right in like it's nothing,
Nice.
So all I gotta do is take the duck out of the dog's hand, throw it in the boat, and they shake off and they're good to go again.
That's awesome, man.
So that and that storage, I know I'm pretty keen on it. I got a couple guys who actually want me to build them some, so my side project for my February, March, and April months, maybe summer again too. So,
well, start shooting your bow a whole lot, and let's go elk hunting.
I got to do that. I haven't touched. The last time I shot my bow was the one that killed my elk.
Really, dude? You got to shoot that thing every day, man.
Oh, I'm terrible. I'm the funny thing is I don't like archery. I don't like shooting bows. I like the opportunities that archery gives me, and that it presents you with the opportunity to get close to elk, and you get to shoot elk in a cool time,
right.
or the season, they're not doing the same thing. You're not calling them in. You're not doing any of that. You're just out shooting.
Right.
Where archery, you're actually hunting.
Right.
So
You don't like shooting your bow? I'm obsessed
dude,
with it,
like,
man.
I'm not even like a gun shooter. I'm not even like a gun guy. Like if I didn't like hunt ducks, like I probably wouldn't own a gun.
Yeah.
I'm totally like I don't like the same thing with my gun, like my shotgun. I'll probably put it away here. Say I go hunting in January. I'll shoot it in January. I'll put that. I'll pull it out, put it away at turkey season. Won't touch it all summer again until duck season. I don't even like shoot clays or nothing.
Really?
I just shoot birds. I mean, I'll probably I think in the last probably 6 years, I think I shot clays like once.
Yeah.
And that was my buddy's bachelor party this past year. That was like it. That was the only time I've shot clays in a long time.
I like shooting clays to get me out of the house. Like before, like that dull period between like where fly fishing is good, like right in the early winter, and then in the like that March time, April time, and then the streams just start getting hammered, and so you pull off a little bit, and then it's like you got to get out of the house,
Yeah,
so I'll go shoot clays. But man, I am obsessed with archery because it's something I can just walk. I don't even own a rifle.
I don't either.
I've shot a rifle like 4 times in my life, more than that. But I don't I'm not into it. My brother's all into it. Scott's into it. And they're trying to convince me to buy a rifle, and I probably will. But man,
I'm the same way.
Just going out and shooting your bow in your backyard, it's such an incredible hobby because it's an incredibly deep rabbit hole. Like there's all the gear that you can mess around with it. There's just like
total mental game too.
The mental game, yeah, dude.
That's I shouldn't say I dislike shooting it, but I don't like get jacked up to do it. When I was really getting ready, like right before my hunt, like especially like 3 weeks before my hunt, when I was getting broadhead sighted in and I was having some problems with broadheads, I'm like, oh man, I got a mess. Yeah. And then I was shooting a ton, and then I got it dialed, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm super happy. Shot a few more times, and then I just barely shot it for the last like 2 weeks. Like I don't want to mess with anything. I'm just gonna shoot a couple a day, just to make sure I got everything right. I don't want to do it so I get pissed off and lose my confidence.
Right.
Ever since I shot it, it actually is still sitting in the damn case.
Oh man. Yeah. Pull that thing. Oh, it's too cold for you out there.
Like from like November on, like where it's not really archery time. Basically, I could probably shoot in my garage a little bit, but
yeah,
you got like 35, so I could probably shoot somewhat. But I had other stuff I was doing, so
it's in the 70s here, right? Or I don't know, mid 60s here right now.
Man, like we were warm today. It was 35. That was pretty warm. So I thought that was toasty.
Dude, you got to get out there and.
We had, what was it? It was right before Christmas? Right before Christmas, we had that 25 degree below zero day. And then I went hunting a couple days later, and it was like 45 degrees. And we were thinking about it. That's a 70-degree difference in 2 days. Just think about it like in a normal place. If that happened, it'd be like 140 degrees where you are now. Like, what?
Yeah, dude. That's that same cold front that locked everything up we had, and then it was right back into the mid 60s.
And I hate that. There's nothing worse than get cold, having ice, and then you get warm again because everything is kind of found like their big refuge. They've been wadded up, and then it's tough, and they don't like to spread. Like at least for us, they don't spread back out. Our ducks it's one thing that's really weird to me about ducks here versus ducks in the south. Like our ducks don't move around much. Like once they've found a lake, like unless they get super pressured off of that, they're gonna stay on that lake forever. And like if it got warm, say it got to 80 degrees in South Dakota in November, like they're not gonna go back to North Dakota.
Yeah.
And they're not. But if it got cold, they'll move down. It seems like it's an imaginary line. It must be like Kansas, Oklahoma, southern Missouri, Arkansas, where those suckers will like float back and forth by the week or the day, depending on the weather.
Yeah,
at least that's what it sounds like. Like we were like the other year we hunted it was Donaldson, and there was like hardly any ducks there, like the week or two before we went, and then all of a sudden, like the week we were there was like few 100,000 or whatever it was, something
Really?
crazy. And then they came back because they came back from the south because
Yeah. Warmed up.
and so they all bailed us. And then they came back north again. Like we would never see birds come back from Nebraska to us unless in February. I've done that. We shot geese in February that were migrating back up, but we never see it during like the regular fall time.
Dude, it's I just don't know. Like I know the guys in Louisiana are a little worried that they're going to lose their ducks. You know that they're gonna move back up north a little bit, which would be good for us.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. I can't even. You know, we had Houston Havens, who's the director of the waterfowl program for Mississippi, on the podcast, and he's saying that the research that they are looking at now really is indicative that the idea of like a large migration is like not necessarily right. That like different family groups of ducks, you know, and this could be much more narrow, you know, like molecular, they kind of form their own habits. So like some ducks are just going to cruise to where they're going. You know, some ducks are going to bounce around, and like there's no one size fits all to like really explain their.
Agree with that.
Yeah.
We always talk about calendar birds, like just ducks that are just going to move based on the time of year, no matter if it's 10 degrees or 70 degrees. And this year was the year that I proved to myself and my buddies, we said calendar birds, the calendar mallards absolutely exist because all of a sudden like November 1st hit and we just had a little bit of a north wind and it wasn't even cold. It was like 50 or something like that. We had a good north wind and boom, some mallards showed up.
Right.
And it wasn't like this big, and like a lot of people didn't think anything would happen because it wasn't cold and it wasn't snow, and everybody thinks, you know, like North Dakota needs to freeze up before we get ducks, and that's, I mean, for us to get the big mobs, that's probably what it takes. But we had huntable birds all of a sudden just from a north wind in early November. Well, then we had crazy storm in mid-November, like right after I got done hunting my little trip out west by myself. I got home and like the next day, cold, and all of a sudden we were like, holy crap, it's going to be on, the river is going to be full, it's going to be loaded, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, what the hell? And I know some birds went past us and we had a little trickle, but I mean it was cold, it was single digits and huge north winds, and nothing happened. We just never really saw any migration. But then all of a sudden a few days later, like every night after that, it stayed cold, and there was just light north winds. And every night I'd leave work at 10 o'clock at night, and you'd hear Canada's going over, and you hear snow's going over every night for 2 weeks. Those birds were just moving a year and a little bit of a north wind. So it didn't take like this big, massive event to move them. It took that to move the big mob and really like clean us out and clean North Dakota out, but it didn't take that to get huntable numbers around. So
Right.
I'm always like trying to read up on migrations and talk to people. And there's another guy, you probably know Ryan Askren.
Yeah, I know who he is. I don't know him.
We've chatted a few times, and I'm like, I know he does like biology type stuff, or not biology, ecology of ducks. And so I'm like picking his brain about different things. I'm like just trying to learn like as much as you possibly can and read about migrations and what it takes. And that kind of stuff is just freaking interesting to me, just to know like what goes through a duck's head and what makes them do what they do. So,
see, I kind of think once they get pushed out of like your region, and the nesting region in general, like there are birds that are going to kind of stop along the way, and then there are birds that are just going to book it all
they have
the
a
way.
destination.
Yeah, they've got a destination.
Lake Ashbaugh. They're going to Rend Lake and to Reelfoot. Somewhere they're going to those spots.
Right.
That's where they're going. Or Habitat Flats nowadays, you know, they're going to those places that they've now been imprinted on, and that's just where they're going. Right. It doesn't matter if the weather is nice underneath them for half their flight, they're on their way to that spot now. That's their next.
Yep.
I think. I mean, those are the animals that just get them. I mean, like we can all our ducks spread out a bunch, but you can always guarantee that there's a half dozen lakes in South Dakota that in late November are going to have 20,000 ducks on them.
Right.
It's just always going to be that way. Those specific lakes are always going to have them. They're big, open bodies of water, not super accessible to little boats, so people aren't messing with them a whole lot. And there's always going to be a big wads of ducks out there, and that's just where they always show up. That's where they go. Doesn't really matter, even the time of year and even the weather. They're just going to be there that time of year. So, I mean, maybe, I don't know. But that's what I've seen. Like, you know, you're never going to have like some random little rinky-dink slough out of the way that's never held birds for all of a sudden hold 10,000 ducks at a migration time. It's going to be those big key holding areas that hold them.
Yeah, I agree. That's the cool thing. That's the one cool thing about being on the private lands. I'll just touch on this, and then we'll probably be a good time to end it. But and you can give me your feedback. But on the private land side thing that my brother and I and Scott are messing around with in our leasing and our future plans of acquiring different pieces of land throughout the region is that like messing around with the idea of imprinting ducks. And then so it's like building habitat and like not hunting that property. We're not going to, like the idea is that we're going to build these pieces of property out and we're not going to hunt them for significant periods of time and just imprint. And then, you know, by the time.
That's exactly what Tony Vandermoor did.
Yeah.
I mean, they created that. I mean, I don't think those ducks were really there.
Yeah.
Not like they are. Not like he has them now. That'd be cool. That'd be smart, especially a few of them scattered around.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that's the, you know, we talk. It's funny because we talk a ton of crap about private land hunters, and we are private land hunters.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work that goes into it, and if you're into hobbies. Like we are, like we're into hobbies. That's a year-round hobby, man. Like you're just constantly going out, you're planning, you're screwing up crops, you're learning how to do stuff better.
Dealing with water. In that type of scenario, you're not going to just have ducks. I mean, there's thousands of potholes in the state of South Dakota that probably never see a duck on them.
Right.
And there's 5% of them that probably see 90% of the duck activity.
Right.
You know, what depth of vegetation or cover, water quality, food, freshwater shrimp in the lake. So, I mean, you have to, especially like if you're in an area where there's other people doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. I imagine, I mean, I'm sure in Mississippi, there's probably most of the hunting and most of the ducks are using private roosts or private refuges or whatever. So when you're competing against that to get them in there.
Yeah, it's a chess game. It's a total chess game.
I've thought about doing that a bunch, but I think the problem is in South Dakota, there's just so much habitat for them that they have the opportunity. Like if I had if I had 200 like flooding, not legal, like it's different. Like we don't have the same. This laws are enforced differently up here for corn and flooded and nippling and all that kind of stuff. So we don't really have that option. But if you wanted to do that, for one, land is obscenely expensive. It's like $8,000 an acre here.
Right.
But if a guy wanted to do that, you would have like, so you say all of a sudden you have 5,000 ducks there and you hunt it 3 days over a 2-week period. Well, those ducks are gone and they're just going to go sit on the next pond, private slough, 2 miles away. You might get them trickling back into your corn or something like that if you had that scenario going. But if you just had a private average pond, nothing. You could maybe not even shoot a duck off it all year.
Right.
Or if you put it under the right traffic line, all of a sudden maybe you'd smash them.
Right.
So my idea of owning a specific duck slough, unless it was like gigantic, would be almost pointless.
Not with the land access that you guys have up there, man. I mean, you can literally just hunting private land is not as difficult up there.
It certainly isn't.
You can get on it.
You don't get laughed at.
Yeah.
You get told no, but you won't be like, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not like. I'm sure if you went around Donaldson or Stuttgart or somewhere and asked, I wonder if I could go hunt that flooded woods you've got behind your house there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the look? They'd be like, son.
Yeah. There's a group of guys that have a big lease next to where our lease is. They pay $90,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, I just found that out. I was like, holy! I mean, it's a big piece of land, but
Ooh, 90 grand. If I'd spent 90 grand on leases in the state of South Dakota for ducks, I I would be pissed if I didn't kill a limit every day and do it in one drake at a time. I mean, that's what it would be like. I mean,
yeah,
I'd have places from the northern border to the southern border and the whole width of the eastern part of the state covered. And I'd have 40 to 100 acre sloughs. Every one could be my own little refuge.
yeah.
It's unbelievable with that.
And I mean, my buddy in Arkansas, they've got one field with a pit on it, and they're paying
Thousands, I'm sure.
16,000.
Oh, dude, you couldn't like give me a cheap enough deal on a rice field to lease. Now, if you found me a good like Coca-Cola woods or something like that,
Yeah,
then we'd be talking.
yeah.
But not like rice field. Mm-mm.
No.
I mean, some of those high end timber spots. I mean, they're like 2, 3, $4 million for. I mean, they're a couple hundred acres.
Yeah,
Probably more than that.
yeah,
Wow, that'd be phenomenal.
yeah. I mean, I would not pay that much for a rice field, even if I was guaranteed to kill them every day. Like,
I wouldn't. If it was woods,
yeah,
right field, I'd be hard pressed.
yeah.
I'd be hard pressed 103 for that matter.
I
Something
mean,
about shooting ducks out of a pit is just I don't know. I don't dig it.
yeah, I don't really dig pit blinds either. You're just looking at the same shit every time.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Canada's it's pretty cool. Like it's different. Like Canada's don't get in and out quite so quick. So we have a fair amount of pit blinds. South Dakota actually has a phenomenal public hunting system with pits up around Pier, right in the middle of the state, and it's super cool and it's super successful, and people consistently kill geese out of them. And they're not like great pits; they're decent. But like a Canada isn't in and out like a mallard is.
Right.
Experience hunting pits of ducks was in like Illinois, and it was flooded corn, and it was the weirdest thing ever. Like I was staring at like standing corn like 25 yards away from me. That's all you could see except for this. You only see like up and out a little bit, and I hated it.
Yeah.
And the pit was super deep, so you couldn't hardly shoot, and I wasn't super impressed on that. So maybe I was a little jaded, but jilted. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I definitely will hunt out of a pit when the time calls for it, for sure. But that's just not my favorite way to hunt. It's just not.
Hiding is unparalleled. I mean, you hide like something else. And my boat is almost a pit blind on wheels, and floating pit blind is essentially what it is. But you get to move it and adjust it how you want, and you come out of it easier than you would a pit because there's no slide tops or nothing like that. So
yeah.
But hiding is like that. So.
All right, man. Well,
cool.
I'll let you go, dude. I'm glad we finally got you back on.
I know, kind of tough schedule time. Once duck hunting starts rolling, man, I'm hard to get a hold of, and every day off, I'm running somewhere, and
I know.
go. Plus, that was all Thanksgiving baloney for retail health, so I was dealing with that baloney, and kind of past that part now at least. So.
Yeah, that's good, dude. We haven't released a podcast in 3 weeks. I've been getting messages like, "Did you guys stop doing podcasts?" And I'm like,
shit.
"Oh man, it's hunting season. I ain't got time."
Us and the people we want to talk to are busy.
Yes, exactly.
Hell. Cool. Well, I'm glad we got together.
Yeah, man, I'm too. And let's stay in touch and talk about some elk hunting stuff. I keep losing you.
Cutting out again.
Yeah, I was going to
I missed
say,
the last.
let's stay in touch and talk about elk hunting, and maybe we can make something work.
I would be cool with that. That'd be fun.
All right. Cool,
Let's
man.
do it. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Catch you later.
See ya.